All right, hello everybody. Let's get started. We got another great episode of the Survivor Roysan Northfield Farm behind the scenes podcast. Thank you for coming back and joining us again. We are talking today about episode 8. Am I really the supervisor? Did I get that right, Liam?
That's
all
correct.
Right. Well, as always, my name is Jaden Moran. I am the host and co-director of Survivor Northfield Farm, and I am joined, as always, by co-host, executive producer, and co-director Liam Hutton.
Hello, thank you. Fun episode this week.
It really was. It really was. I probably one of the more dramatic episodes I think that we've had. Big vote out, big blindside. Again, this is a spoiler podcast, as always. If you're watching this now, you know that. But so yeah, no, huge blindside on Ashley. The Pittmans are starting to fall apart. And anyways, we're all here for it, and we love it. So we'll get to that in a minute. But we've got a lot to talk about, and we're going to actually try to make this a briefer episode than I think we did last week. We pushed 45 minutes. So we're going to make this a nice, fun, tight episode because we got a nice, fun, tight episode that we're talking about. So anyways, let's get into it. Liam, how do we start the episode?
So we go right from previously on, transition into Vega reading the parchment. We'll do a little pat on the back. That was a fun little transition, I thought. And then we went right to the challenge.
Yes. Just little behind the scenes note being that I on the day hand him the scroll. He reads the scroll, which is clearly prompting us to all go down the hill and do the whole reach in the bag for the scrolls. And I just completely blanked out, and he read the scroll, and my first thing that I said, I was like, well, thanks, Vega. See you guys at your next challenge. And then you can hear Liam off screen going, no. Then again, remember they're going right to their challenge. I was like, oh yeah, right, fuck. And then we have to cut and start it again. But so a little mess up in the moment. But no, this was a lot of fun, and I agree with you, Pat. This is me patting you on the back, Liam. That is a nice edit. It's kind of fun, just coming right out of that previously on, just launch right into the episode. No need to black out or do anything like that. Okay, so then we go down, and the scroll that Vega read was ultimately previewing a big bag of scrolls that they had the option to play a challenge or not. And so this was one of the things that Liam and I were texting about this before the episode. I wanted to talk about 2 of the disadvantages got pulled, but we had 9 different scrolls in the bag. Is that correct, Liam? It was 9?
Correct. 9, just in case everyone decided to sit out. There would be 1 for everyone.
Correct. It was 3, 3, and 3, if I'm not mistaken. Do you have it in front of you what the other ones were, so that the people at home don't think that we were just trying to screw out? Because there's 2 disadvantages got pulled, which was a little sad. But like for us, we were like disadvantage. But it was one of these things that we had legitimately 3 advantages, 3 disadvantages, and 3 neutral items that were in the bag. And Liam, why don't you tell us what some of them were?
Yeah, so this was a controversy filming that weekend too. All the contestants were claiming that it was all full of disadvantages, but it was not. It was, so the third disadvantage that we did not read was you just lose your vote at the next tribal. But then the 3 advantages was, 1 was an extra vote, 1 was a clue to an idol that has been hidden, and then the third one is just a straight up hidden immunity idol that was good only at final 9 and final 8. So that was the most powerful advantage in the bag. And then neutrals, we said there was neutrals. It was, hey, this is nothing. You can go back and compete in the challenge, but we also gave them the option to keep it a secret just in case they wanted to bluff. So yeah, a little disappointing.
All 3 neutrals
probably the 2 weakest disadvantages.
Yeah, I couldn't remember.
Yeah, they're all
remember
exactly
us discussing this in the production meetings that we did, but I couldn't remember what they were. Yeah, it was a little disappointing. Just that they, and you can see it on my face, like when when Michelle reads hers and she says this, and like, I don't have a very good poker face when it comes to something like that. But No, I mean,
I'm honestly surprised more people didn't sit out either. I think when we gave him the chips and they revealed and it was only 2, I was kind of like, oh, okay. But hey, it makes sense. Puts a target on your back a little bit too.
It does put a target on your back, but I also don't know if people really understood what. I don't know if anyone would have thought that advantages meant that there was an immunity idol in that bag that you could hold. And I think almost if people knew that, I wonder if more would have risked it. They would have said, I have a 1 in, as it is right now, if I'm assuming I'm going into this immunity challenge with a 1 in 9 shot to win immunity, I theoretically have that same shot just pulling 1 out of 9 scrolls out of a bag. And so, I wonder if we'll do that, if that would have incentivized them more to reach in the bag, but that's not something that we wanted to disclose. So, is what it is, and they didn't do it.
Because in reality, you have a 66% shot of neutral or something good.
Correct.
So it's like really the odds are in your favor, but nope. So
theoretically they're in your favor, but not for Darren and Michelle.
Survivor gods had different ideas, I guess.
Very true, very true. Okay, so then we move on to the challenge. Well, actually, let's just talk about real quick, because I kind of did mention that you were like, I wonder why more people didn't. Specifically, and we were discussing this before the challenge, you mentioned you were like, I really wonder why Karen didn't do it.
Yeah, especially Karen has been trying to downplay her challenge performance. And then I get the idea of you don't want to put a target on your back of having an advantage, but we see later Karen goes back to camp and starts picking fights. So it's like she put a target on her back. So yeah, I guess it's damned if you do, damned if you don't, really. But she was the first one out of the challenge too. So,
and listen, nobody thought more highly of themselves as a challenge beast than Karen. She's a self-proclaimed challenge beast multiple times over at this point in the season. So maybe she just legitimately did think, hey, I have a pretty good shot at winning this, and so I'll go into the challenge and risk it that way. Okay, so now we move on to the actual challenge. Kind of a classic Survivor, just balancing balls on a disc. We've also talked about this now at a handful of points throughout these podcasts of some challenges we go all out on, and we're hiring, we've got Mike Casey building all these big props and everything, and then sometimes you gotta just go on the cheaper side. These are the discs that we used when they did the hand-holding endurance challenge, and so this is a cheaper one, but still a very fun and intriguing one. I thought I like these kind of simple, just in a way it's an endurance challenge, but it's a concentration thing and everything.
Yeah, it's when there's 9 people and you have to make 9 different stations, it's hard to do puzzles or something super physical. So yeah, good to always have these in the mix and save some budget.
I also
all about saving the budget.
All about saving the budget. I'm not gonna lie, I have a soft spot in my heart for these disc ball balancing challenges. If you ever watch Merrimack Madness, your boy over here actually kind of came in clutch on a big disc, a different one, disc on a pole, but still. Anyways, not to talk about myself. Actually, jumping right into talking about myself, I wrote this note that this is the more self-deprecating talking about myself. This is the just like that challenge. Yeah. I say,
and just like that. You said it for every single person.
Oh, Karen, just like that. Another 2.5 minutes is good. Oh, and just like that. Vegans. Oh, and just like that, Ashley. Just like that, Zach drops. And just like that, Jen. I say for every single person except Vega, because I say because they make the deal at the end. So then I go, and off of a deal that they made, or whatever. But literally every other person that drops, I go, and just like that.
Yeah, where 20 minutes into the challenge, and just like that. I guess theoretically every single one happens just or you're a big Sex and the City fan and the sequel series, and just like that, it's a big shout out.
No, I didn't even know what that reference was until you said it. I think
good, terrible.
I think really what it was is that obviously we have to edit these down. So some of these people went longer than others. The challenge is not the same time period that it is in the episode. And so it's one of these things where I think in my mind, if 5 minutes has gone by since the last person who dropped, I'm not thinking of this thing that I just said a second ago. Hey, you don't want to repeat that? Like, it's kind of out of mind, I guess. And then I think the other thing too is like, there's a bunch of Jeff Probst isms that you bring into the weekend when you're putting on the role of a host of Survivor. And that, is something that after watching Survivor for 24 years or whatever, you just, in challenges like this, when something ends drastically for contestants, you go, oh, and just like that, comes to an end. Or, so anyways, it was a little silly. But I love the interaction that Vega and Megan have with each other when she's asking him, is this your catering experience and all stuff? But from being there on the weekend, the two of them were tight basically the entire time. So it felt inevitable when it came down to the two of them that they were just probably going to split it anyways.
Yeah, and Megan she was turning her head, moving around. I think she was the most comfortable up there. Jen, who was a statue the whole time, and just like that, drops right before that deal. But no, yeah, I think Megan had it under control, and we gave her the little confessional saying, hey, keep it off me. Vega's winning back-to-back challenges. I still get immunity, and
she got a little scared there though, because he kind of started like, he didn't just say Megan. Like when I was like, who are you gonna give it to? He didn't just go like, oh, I'm giving it to Megan. He said, I think it would only be fair if the person who came in second or whatever. And then she kind of panics there for a second. She's like, wait, you said me. Which was funny. So anyways, okay, so now we'll move on. Now let's get into the kind of exciting what went on back at camp, which was craziness. Well, do you want to talk about let's talk about the little Karen tiff to start.
Yeah. So this was a big group chat. Oh, Karen's going after Michelle. Karen's going after Michelle. And then watching it back, it wasn't too crazy, but it was a fun scene. Watching this whole season, I think I identify with Karen the most out of any other character. I think if I go and play a Survivor one day, I think I'll probably play a lot like and come off a lot like Karen. So I get it. It's, hey, your back's against the wall. She said it. When you're backed in the corner, what else do you have to do but fight?
Upon watching it back, it's not really a fight. She's basically telling, Michelle says that in her confessional. She goes, she wasn't really saying any lies. Like, she wasn't like making anything up or saying anything mean. You can tell she's upset in that moment, that it seems like it's heading towards her inevitable end, which is not inevitable actually. But all that she's saying is like, she's like, this is disappointing that you guys are all just ganging up on the Gibson, which is just kind of like, hey, if that's what they want to do, that's the right to stick with a original Gibson alliance. But I get what she's saying. She's like, we don't want to make this boring for the people at home, and we appreciate that. Thank you, Karen. Especially because we mentioned last week, there's some anti-Pittman people out there on the internet right now. But she's saying that, and then she's just saying like the obvious, which is this is a classic age-old way to break up a seemingly strong alliance. Is okay, fine. What happens though when you get rid of me, Darren, and Jen? Now, okay, great. Now it's just Pittman. Where do you sit on that? Where do you sit in that pecking order, Michelle? Before it's too late, do you want to jump ship and make a new pecking order, sort of thing?
Kind of unfortunate she was pitching Michelle, who you could argue is in the power position of this thing, and she kind of took a step back this time. But last vote, it was her, Zach, and Matt are so right information, just maybe targeted at the wrong individuals.
Ultimately, too, kind of while we're talking about, I'm going to jump ahead to tribal, and like while we're talking about the pre-tribal era moment though, because I do want to kind of go back to some of the conversations I've had pre-tribal, but the way the vote broke down, all of the remaining Gibsons end up voting for Karen because they weren't told we're gonna go with Ashley by the people. So it's funny that it's like all remaining Gibson vote Karen, except Karen who votes Zach, and she obviously wouldn't have voted herself. and all remaining Pittman other than Ashley vote for Ashley. So it's kind of funny how drastically flipped. I don't like really understand why. They already knew they were at the bottom, so I guess they're just trying to like save face a little bit. But like neither Jen or Darren, both Jen and Darren voting for Karen felt weird to me, I guess, when I rewatched that.
Yeah, I think it goes back to they are the ones that flip or swap to Pittman, so maybe it is still maybe they can try to find their way into there and appease people.
It's still just so funny that neither of them, Darren or Jen, no one told them, hey, go Ashley. If you're going to go anyone and you don't want to vote for your original Gibson Karen, just go Ashley. Like, no one told them that clearly because they went with Karen. They just assumed that that's what Pittman people were planning on doing, which I think is funny, kind of plays into the trickery that Pittman was playing. So now let's...
No, they were able to blindside literally everyone.
Yeah.
They blindsided the person, Ashley, who went home, and then you can see by Karen's face, Karen had a bigger reaction to Ashley getting voted out than Ashley had.
I don't blame her either.
Yeah, fun move.
In that moment, her reaction was blindsided happiness. She gets to stay at least another round in this game. So good for Karen, honestly.
This is if you think about it, fourth vote in a row that she was Plan A, right? Like, she had the split on her and was immune when it went to rocks. She was given the idol and was able to flip Michelle and Matt, but Isaiah voted for her. And then at the merge, it was initially going to be her or Jen, and then now this one. So yeah,
she is literally surviving.
She's surviving.
I agree with you that like that was how it felt on the weekend too. Like, a lot of this, it is funny, like, because we're a year removed from when we filmed this, so there's so much of this that I'm like have I let the edit and going through the edits of the footage like affect what the actual memory is? But I remember at this point in the weekend definitively feeling like Karen is that like classic, how does she keep like escape artist sort of character of the season, which was cool. Okay, so just getting back to pre-tribal a little bit, we can talk about kind of like Ashley and how she was melting down. I wanted to, or that I don't know, I think she said I'm spiraling at one point. But one thing that I wanted to point out that I think is kind of cool and might be a moment that's missed for viewers at home is there is the moment in my mind where the real pivot happens and they go like, and Zach and Matt say like, should we switch things up? Let's maybe do Ashley. That conversation starts with them talking to Ashley. And then you see this moment where Zach is looking off screen and going, no. And then he goes, we've all gone, right? Oh, no, you go, Ashley, like you have gone. And then she walks away from the conversation. That is, for the people at home, that moment is Ashley had to go do her confessional. So the way that these all, like the format of this weekend for us is we film the tribal, we film the challenge, and then we generally have about an hour, maybe an hour and a half for tribal. And in that time period, they get to go back to camp, they mingle, and as they're mingling, we pick them off and they come and do their confessionals. We do not tell them what order they have to go in. They get complete control of when they come and do their confessional, but it has to happen within that time period that we're there to do confessionals. And so it is just, it's a fun moment because it's one of those weird things where it's like, as a former player, when you go to do your confessional, it's spooky because it's the few minutes that you are away in that hour and a half, maybe. It is the few minutes that you are not involved in a conversation, and it's terrifying. And that was like a clear moment. I was like, it does end up biting people though, because like sometimes you walk away and you just immediately start talking about it.
Yeah, and you can't really see anyone because you're kind of out of sight too. So usually, if you're standing by yourself, at least you know who's talking to who. But yeah, it was a cool little scene because as soon as she walks away, Zach goes, you know who I'm paranoid about.
Yeah.
But yeah, cool. Even to backtrack a little, it kind of all stems from, okay, let's split the vote. Okay, who are we going to split it on? And then not having that second name. So if you suggest splitting the vote, I guess you got to have even throw yourself.
Well, totally, because like
case,
if she just gave a name to Zach without having to think about it too much, he probably wouldn't have been as paranoid, because he was really sitting there in that moment thinking like, if she's not giving me a straight name, maybe I'm the backup name that she doesn't want to say to my face. And so like, you got to come for, like, if you're going to come with a plan, you can't come with a half-baked plan, which is kind of what she did. And then it ended up coming back to bite her.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it was Zach rallying the troops from there.
He's also wanted to do something fun for. He's been. I mean,
this has been building since. Yeah, he wanted to do it last week, and he kind of got shot down or pushed us out or delayed. But no, this is the right time to do it too. I mean, if you really want to go ideal Survivor strategy, you're up 6-3. You can afford to kick one of your alliance mates out. Now you're in a group of 5 against 3, and you're up 2. So you're really just buying yourself almost 2-3 rounds by doing this. So
solid move.
Good move.
Zach and Matt
all
are
around.
just at this point in the weekend, they were firing on all cylinders. The two of them are great together, and they have a fun dynamic on camera too. And so yeah, no, I mean, they're great.
Mario and Luigi, that's what I call them. In Zach's wearing a red shirt. Zach's wearing a red shirt. Matt's wearing something close to like
and the height
color,
difference too is like that's funny actually.
That's what I've coined them in my head.
And I do also like that Vega's kind of the first person that they really pitched the idea to, who we talked about this, I don't know if not on the pod or certainly together we've talked about this, that like Vega it's been tricky in these edits making the role he had on the weekend pop. But I remember by this point in the weekend, you have compared him in personal off the podcast to the character Littlefinger from Game of Thrones, which I think is kind of fitting. He had his hands in every little corner of the camp that weekend, and everyone, I felt like at various times, again, filming confessionals, I heard a lot of different people say, I'm close with Vega right now. Vega and I are, and I heard it from a lot of different people. So he had his ears, his eyes and ears were everywhere in that camp. And so I thought that was interesting, that he's really the first one that they pitched the idea to, and he goes for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think even if he says no, it doesn't happen. I think really it's Zach desperate to pull the trigger, and then Vega gives it the okay, and it's a go. And that, I think that's how you get Megan, and then obviously Michelle is with
totally. Megan and Vega kind of mentioned this earlier at the challenge. They were very tight that weekend. So so once you have Vega on board, he can go back and pit it to his number one and in Megan, and she was convinced, which I don't really think we saw too much of on camera. She's just kind of on board with it. So like, great, they all a go for Ashley. And Ashley, though, I feel like we've said so a few weeks in a row, I'm not trying to just be nice to everybody who's on camera for us. So like another great sport about it sort of thing. And like, just like love the game. And you can see she's upset, but not like furious at anybody. She's like, cool move. Great. She immediately says, great game.
Yeah. If you go back in old school Survivor 2, this spot, the first member of the jury, Final 9, it's usually a spot where someone who is a gamer and is a threat gets picked off. So yeah, Ashley playing a great game. The only problem is I think everyone saw that she was playing a great game, and
that can get you.
Survivor, that can get you.
All right. So yeah, we're just past the 23-minute mark, I'm seeing. So probably time to start wrapping it up. Any other notes on the episode?
No, I think this was a fun one. It was a good first, I think the first official full blindside. Rachel was blindsided a little bit, but yeah, this was one of the first Pittman to go since Isaiah. But
I would also say
that wasn't that long ago. But
I would say the real first blindside felt like Chad, but it's still so early. It was early enough that it just doesn't feel as consequential. Like this was the first one. You're like, oh my god. you're at a point in the game when it just feels like Pittman's just steamrolling, and when are they, it's just going to be Gibson. And so then the fact they start to turn on each other at this moment is very, very interesting. So anyways, without further ado, I guess we'll start to wrap it up and say that next Wednesday is episode 9, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard. As always, you can catch these episodes the following weekend. We've been trying to post them on Sundays. Last week it came out a little late, but we'll try to get these up on Friday. We're having a good time. We're on a roll. We've only got, it's kind of crazy to think this, after this episode, after 8, 4 more to go. 9, 10, 11, 12.
10, 11, 12.
4 episodes to go. So if you've been enjoying this, we are in the final stretch. So we ask you please to like, share, subscribe, yada, yada, yada. Keep enjoying, keep commenting, keep engaging. We had fun a few weeks ago when we had a few questions for this podcast that were asked in the comment thread. We haven't seen as many of those over the last few weeks, but I was too bad. We jumped on answering them. If you watch this right now and you have any questions about how the weekend went, feel free to drop comments or questions. We'd love to talk about them here. Liam, any last words?
Nope. Thanks. Next episode is the end of Saturday. So we're really in the final stretch. So
I will
see you then.
See you all then. All right. To everybody, have a nice night.